Greetings.
So, have you been here already before, Ben?
This is my first time on
Oh,
the stage.
okay. Let's
this
make it
weekend,
a
yeah.
little difficult then, guys. No, no. What we wanted to talk about here today is a little bit around like the expansions and the background behind the expansions. I play a lot of Hearthstone, but Ben probably knows way more about what is behind the expansions. And yeah, what is your first thing you might want to share? Like, what is important to like do in an expansion? What are you looking at?
Well, my role has changed over time. So, in the past, long time ago, I was responsible for coming up with the cards. The first pass, right? We have two teams. There's the initial design team and the final design team. And the initial design team gives a first pass at the mechanics of the set. They do a sketch of what like every card is going to be. So like probably multiple rounds of that. They try and get it the best they can do. And then they hand the whole set over to final design. And final design works on balance. They make sure the set's fun. They make sure the decks that are going to come out of that set are interesting to play. And so I did the initial design side, and I was helped coming up with themes for sets and designing those mechanics and cards. Probably from I helped with obviously the basic and classic sets, but starting with Next Ramus going to about, which was the Old Gods, I was the lead initial designer in that period.
Okay, so and how does a card like get designed or gets into Hearthstone? Because we all know the Warcraft background, and the lore has been in it. But does it first? Is the design coming first, or is the card itself like in Hearthstone the first part?
We call those two directions top down and bottom up. So sometimes we have a great design for a card, right? Like Reno Jackson, I think, is a good example, right? He's a card that. We knew we wanted to encourage people to do decks that were one of each card type, right? So that was the design was first, and it eventually ended up on Reno Jackson. And sometimes we have a fantasy that we're chasing. Like Jiraxis is a great example of that, right? We were doing a play test, and when we were doing this play test, this is a long time ago, we had Horde and Alliance versions of every class. Okay. So I think for Warlock, it was Cho'Gall and Wilfred Fizzlebang were the two heroes. And so we brought a guy in from the World of Warcraft team to test the Hearthstone and see what he thought about the game, and he chose Wilfred Fizzlebang, and he said, oh, I hope there's a Jiraxis card in this deck. Because famously, Wilfred Fizzlebang in the World of Warcraft raid tries to summon a Doomguard, ends up summoning Jiraxis instead. Jiraxis kills him and takes over as the new boss, and he's like, all right, well, you gotta face me now. And so there wasn't a Jiraxis card. And when he said that, when he said, I hope there's a Jiraxis card, I was like, oh, shoot. Of course everyone's going to say that. We must have a Jiraxis card. And I went back to my desk and I designed Jiraxis, who, when you play him, he kills your hero and takes over as the new boss, right? He mirrors the fantasy of the Warcraft experience. And that's a top-down design, where we start with the fantasy and then come up with mechanics that fit the fantasy. And there's others that are better bottom up. But we do a lot of both, actually. We do a significant amount of designs that are based on the theme of the expansion. So a good example is the Grand Tournament. We wanted what is a refreshment vendor, right? Like that's gonna be at a tournament. What would he do at a tournament? He might give people funnel cakes and heal them or something, right? And then we also wanted designs that were reminiscent of the hero power fantasy of making hero powers matter in that set, and those are more bottom-up designs.
Okay, so something I also always wonder, because like I've played a little World of Warcraft here and there, but not much at all. So I don't know the whole story, but like you spend a lot of time in like designing the cards and the whole process. But I wonder this: how often does it go wrong? Like how often do you have like a card, and how often like do you change him? Like maybe I can actually imagine that there is like you change the card like 10 times, and then like he's there.
Well, most of the time it goes wrong. So very frequently when you design a card to start, there's something wrong with it. Like I went through and looked at the Grand Tournament, tried to figure out the list of cards that I delivered to final design, how many of them didn't change. And it was 2 cards. 2 cards in the entire set didn't change.
You did a good job.
One of them was Mysterious Challenger. So,
okay.
But it was
good job, Ben.
And then even then, before that point, those cards changed a ton of times. The first time you come up with something, it's just not fun, right? It takes iteration. That's the way that you get to something fun. You build it, you play test it. You play it a bunch of times. We do team play tests. Where the whole team gets together, everybody from every discipline, all the teams that work with with our team as well, and we get a ton of feedback and trying to understand, are the big things fun, right? Is this mechanic worth spending a lot of time making it good, right? Are Spellstones working or are they not working? Is Recruit fun? Do you like it? Should we keep doing that or not? And then we get the feedback from the whole team. We cut some things, we iterate on some things, we try some new things, and then we work hard on the individual designs to get those in this space we want them, and then ship over to final design, and they really make the whole set come together.
So I also know you work like 1 or 2 expansions often like already in front when an expansion comes out. But there is also like, there has to be things you don't expect. There is like, oh, this card, oh man, yeah, well, we thought it could be great, but it's actually just dominating the meta.
Right.
How do you like, you need to have some space to also maybe do something about that.
So right now, Global Catacombs is out, and we're seeing things about that set that are going to impact future sets, obviously, right? We have a couple ways to deal with that. One is that often we end up nerfing some cards, right? That's a way that we can handle that. We've done that in the past. So that's one vector. Another is that we leave ourselves a little bit of room. So the next set, we had finished with our final design process, so we're very unlikely to make additional changes at that point, but we still have time. So what happens is now we're looking at how Kobolds and Catacombs is working out, and we could tweak some last minute some cards in our next set. And then, so that set's finished with the final design process. That's still pretty early on. After final design, there's still lots of effects to do, art's still coming in, golden card animations, there's a lot of engineering work to still happen, quality assurance. So we have to be way ahead of what actually ends up shipping. And so we're at the end of final design there, but still in the last minute tweaking. And then there's another set after that. That's in final design right now. The set after that is in initial design. So we're many sets ahead, and the lessons we're learning, it's not just balance, right? Like, we try things and maybe they're really fun. Maybe they're like, oh wow, that mechanic or that thing we tried or that lesson we learned, that works great, let's do more of that. Or this one didn't work at all like we thought it was going to. Let's not do that thing that we thought might be fun that was based on this thing that didn't end up being as good as we thought. Yeah. So we're learning all the time about what's fun and also the balance stuff is important.
Do you also have maybe like any ideas of like cards that had a big lore, like for example Illidan, to maybe like have changes to these? Have you plans on bringing mechanics back that are gone, like Inspire, but there is no card? Like, do you still have like plans on maybe doing something that, or like is that out of the radar?
Well, so bringing mechanics back is really interesting. We have to decide, okay, Discover is a good example, right? Is that a thing that we should do forever in Hearthstone? And I think it added a huge amount of interesting decisions to the game and excitement to the game. So we've been doing it every set since League of Explorers. Lifesteal came out with Knights of the Frozen Throne. We did it again with Kobolds and Catacombs. But there's a lot of mechanics that don't go from set to set to set. And I think it's really important that when we create new keywords especially, that we look at the overall burden of things you just have to memorize, right? We could keyword every card, right? Like on Corridor Creeper, we could just put the words.
Was it a little bit of a sleeper?
Right? What's that?
Was it a little bit of a sleeper, the Corridor Creeper?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. Maybe a lot of a sleeper. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we could just put the keyword for that card on that card, right? We could put Mysterious Challenger is the keyword for Mysterious Challenger. That means when you play him, get secrets, put them into the battlefield, right? And the more keywords that you have, the more you have to have memorized, right? And so we've been adding lots of keywords to the game, right? Discover, Lifesteal, there's like 2 others that we've kind of been repeating over time. And that's means that we should be careful, I think. We don't want to just willy-nilly add everything. And you can imagine like the number of keywords being 50 or something after a couple years. And we also don't need them, right? Like, it might be more interesting to come back and do a bunch of cards that interact with the keyword. The game has plenty of space. We can do lots of interesting cards. We don't need to just keep adding over time.
Do you have a card you really miss? You are like, oh man, I would love if it could maybe still be here around the standard.
Lock and Load. Lock and Load is my favorite. But it's fine. I can play it in Wild, and I do. It's dirty, and I love it.
You have some cool. You could also fit it really well now in the new Spellhunter.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I've played the deck a lot. Sometimes still struggles a little bit, but it's definitely a lot of fun.
It's more fun to win with Spellhunter because of the community response to my side. It's like it's more satisfying to win with that card. I find.
You probably didn't expect like these kind of things either. Sometimes you have to have like these unexpected cards that are just getting like, yeah, like to my side that become
Yeah.
a little bit of a meme card, and then
Well, we have a lot of goals when we're designing a set, right? We want to deliver cards that change the meta, right? That's if you don't change the meta, why'd you release the cards, right? So that's one of the big ones. But also we want to design cards that tease your brain a little bit, right? Like I don't know how to use this, right? Weasel Tunneler is a good example, I think, of that. This card just doesn't seem good, but does something different. Does something no other card does. How can I use that to the best advantage? And actually, just recently, people have been coming out with some really bizarre, interesting, maybe successful Weasel Tunneler decks, right?
I have played the deck. It has some benefits. It has also some things that I don't think are really benefits,
Sure,
but
right,
it's at least you can really have fun.
But it's
about it.
different, right? That card makes you think hard about like this totally new mechanic that no other card does, and how you're going to use that best, right? And so we try and come up with a lot of those cards as well. And then we also come up with cards that are exciting, right? Hearthstone is super fun, lots of exciting moments happen, and so we want cards that are going to encourage storytelling, where you finish a game and you call up your friend and be like, "You never believe this crazy thing that happened in this game." That's part of what makes Hearthstone fun, and so we try and make sure we have cards that fit all of those different categories.
So I also know like you have a second love, and that's like a little bit rapping. If you could have a card, or is there any card coming that you could maybe combine, or where you have like a card that you have in mind where you maybe might make the sound effect, and then you have like a cool rap card? How will your rap card look like?
We have no plans for any rapping cards right now. Probably would get immediately overruled if I tried to shove that in there.
Okay. And what is your secret like? I know, because I want to share some of you also here. You also have like your like, what is it called, Lumberjacky shirts with you.
my flannel.
Yeah, and you always you have like 2 or 3 like same ones. Do you have multipliers of these, or are these like your shirts you always go to?
Yeah, I have a large collection of flannel for every occasion. I have some very thin flannel for when it's warm, and some very thick flannel for when it's cold. I have some red and green flannel I wear on Christmas. I have a large variety of.
These are the things you notice when you meet at different episodes. I was like, yeah, now is the moment to ask that kind of questions too. So
we were working on the Journey to Ungoro video, right? We were sitting on a campfire, and they brought some props, and the director was like, "Hey, can you guys wear some flannel tomorrow for the shoot?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously." I mean,
that must come in my room, guys. No, and for now, like back in the day, you said you were like working a lot still on expansions. Like, what is now your main? Like, what are you now mainly doing a lot?
So my role now is game director, and that covers a lot of different things. So my biggest goal is to make sure the team has what it needs to succeed. I focus a lot on the kind of high-level strategy and vision for Hearthstone. We have a team of directors that kind of encompass all the disciplines on Hearthstone, so production, engineering, art, design, audio, and we all kind of help figure out what does Hearthstone want to do next, right? What do we want, and what should we be doing differently? And the team helps feed in all the inputs there, and we help give feedback and grow everybody who's working on this stuff. And but they're really the guys who are making the game at this point, right? We're just helping support this awesome team of people who are making all the cool stuff.
That's really cool to see. I also feel like you I still think the touch with the community you're doing is something that you're doing. How have you been enjoying it here now in Amsterdam? Like, I have been also at the last 2 World Championships, what was over in America, but now we got it in Europe, guys. So that's I was really happy. I was like, yeah, in Europe. So how has it been for you here, like now completely on the other side of the world?
It's awesome. This venue is like perfect for Hearthstone. I don't know how they found this place. It's exactly the right spot for a Hearthstone World Championship. The city is beautiful. I just walked around for hours because I was jet lagged. I was trying not to fall asleep, and so being out in the cold helped me stay awake. And it's just incredible here. The canals are beautiful. The French fries are super good here. Everyone's walking around with a cone of fries. I like it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So now we had like the Kobolds and Catacombs coming up. We now have like also like with the rotation. How is this? Is that going to be like a thing you are going to like keep going on for in the long term? The rotation plan?
Yeah, I think it's been doing some good things for us. So people have like historically responded the best to the sets that kick off a rotation. I think Wishpas of the Old Gods was hyper fun. Journey to Un'Goro, people really loved that period of time, and it's because so much changes in the standard meta. It's completely different. There's lots of new decks to explore. The first time we did a bunch of card nerfs, and that also helped change things a lot. This last rotation we did the Hall of Fame thing, and that made a big impact. And so I think that these rotations are just force the meta to have significant change, which makes it really fun.
Do you guys also test on like maybe balance changes often? Like we have seen like Familiar already here and there. There are sometimes balance changes. Is that something you are like keep working on sometimes maybe putting in? And do you then also like practice multiple ways of like maybe nerfing, buffing specific cards?
Yeah, we do. We see what's happening in the meta, and we look at data. We get feedback from you and from a lot of the players, and we kind of take all those inputs. The one input that most players don't get is like these super detailed charts that we have a lot of control over and can see the exact card in the best deck, for example, that's causing it to do the best. And so those are all the things that we look at, and then we have to determine when is the right time to do those changes, if any. I think I mentioned recently that the first time that we'd be able to do changes is I think the beginning of February is our next patch. So we'll see if there's anything coming out then. But we're focused on the World Championship right now. We're not ready to announce any potential changes yet. So stop digging into
Well, sometimes you never know. No, but no, I think it was in general, like the expansions. We also had a lot of the more adventures. Is that something that is like people also love the adventures here and there? I think now also with the World Dungeon Run experience, like we all have seen how Dungeon Run was. I think a lot of people have been playing it here and there. Are you happy with how that has been going? Because it was probably a little bit of a test tool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we have experimented with recently. This is one of the big ones, right? And I think we've learned a couple things. One is that the expansion, releasing this many cards, it has some real upsides in how much the meta is changing. I think that's good. But the downside is that there was things about adventures that we really liked. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we got is that this has like significantly impacted the cost to just stay afloat in the game, right? There's more cards per year to buy, and that doesn't feel great. Even though we're getting way more content and the meta's changing, and I think the Hearthstone's more fun to play because of it. So, I think that's just, it's important for us to hear that feedback. It's important for us to discuss that feedback. We're still discussing all that feedback right now back at the office. So we haven't reached any conclusions yet, but I think it's important feedback. But the other thing I'm excited about is that because now we've kind of combined the fact that we're getting single player content and expansions, we have single player content with every set. So single player content's coming out way more frequently than it was before. More cards are happening more frequently than they were before. And so we're just getting more Hearthstone. And the single player content's free, which it wasn't before. So when we launched an adventure or an expansion in the past, you had to kind of buy something, right? There wasn't anything totally free to experience. Now that's always something. You come back into Hearthstone and there's something free for all players. The dungeon runs were, I think, insane for that, right? They were super fun. You don't even need any cards to participate in the experience. And it was a great way to come back and experience Hearthstone without having to pay any money.
So now I have, like, for the end, a little bit of like more personal questions or relevance for you. Like, what is your favorite class?
It varies with expansion, but traditionally I really enjoy playing Paladin. But I also like Hunter and Priest a lot
Paladin,
as well.
Right? More controlled.
I like all kinds of Paladin.
Okay.
I just like making 1/1 Silverhand recruits in any deck. So.
Okay. And what was your favorite expansion?
Oh man.
Playing, working on both a little bit together.
I have a strong recency bias. So probably Kobolds and Catacombs is way up there. The Dungeon Run thing is nuts, right? Like it was completely different than any other way you could play Hearthstone, and it was super replayable, and I really loved that experience. And I've been having a ton of fun making decks and playing in this meta, so, and I have very strong recency bias.
and what cards, even it might not be as good or whatever, like what card will always be in your deck every time you make a deck?
So this is not the answer to that question. But I keep trying to make Millhouse Manastorm work. Like I feel like it
Oh,
should
I was
be.
really close. Like I had this Paladin deck, and with Call to Arms, it's
Oh, yeah,
actually a
right.
pretty good one to actually make it work.
Yeah,
So
well, I often feel like
the recruit mechanic is like a mechanic
right.
that Millhouse might work.
It's almost there.
There are a
But
lot of
even,
cards
I mean,
now.
you play at a much higher rank than I do normally. But like even when you play Millhouse Manastorm and your opponent's like, oh, all right, okay, and they just play all their spells, and you're like, okay, we're out of juice now, right?
Yeah.
Like now a quality consecrate, and you're out of cards, and I win.
Maybe we have like a specific like new mechanic that we now just made together. Like if we can make a mechanic where people like where you can benefit from people just playing all your sparks,
Right.
and then you have like a secret card that, yeah, doesn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
an extra power.
We make a secret that says when your opponent plays 2 spells, do something crazy, and then you go turn 1 secret, turn 2 Manastorm.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm gonna take this back to the office. We're gonna do this.
See, well, I think that's a good wrap up here for now. Like having a little bit of a shared thought there. No,
Yeah.
I hope you guys liked it, and I was really honored to have you
Awesome.
here, Ben.
Thanks for talking to me
Yeah.
up here. Thanks, guys.